council.
It was when I came home singing those kinds of songs at my parents, so maybe not enough.
Okay.
You've got children.
Any
And
else
there's
sorting
the children
for
waiting for
This is what Jill was saying.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to the Sandwich Tollbridge Funds Finance Committee. First of all, Town Clerk, are there any apologies for absences received?
Yes, so Councillor Breen has a travel commitment and Councillor Tomlins unable to.
Okay. Item number 2, declarations of interest. Does any member have a disclosable pecuniary interest in respect to the agenda for this meeting? Okay. Item 3, minutes of the Finance Committee meeting that was held on the 20th of November. And that's attachment 1 in the pack. Are there any comments from anybody in terms of these? No. I'd like to propose that we accept the minutes. In that second.
I'll second it.
And the vote. Thank you very much. Item 4, public participation. Do we have anybody who'd like to speak this evening?
No question.
We have, in terms of the minutes that we've just approved, there is an action log which wasn't included by it, so I just wanted to give a very quick run through the actions that were outstanding, and they all actually were raised in the last meeting. So the first was 11.24.5, and that was for the Finance Officer to arrange for Quilter Chivia to be advised that future investments should not include investment into their own investment funds. That action was discharged through this Monday's full meeting of the trustee, so that is now closed. The second action was 11.24.8, and that was for the Finance Officer to look again at the STBF properties and to discuss with the property manager if an additional amount should be built into the 25-26 budget to meet the likely required spend. So I don't know if the Town Clerk would like to just speak on that one.
Just to say that obviously the property manager is still working his way through looking at the assets and he has been talking with the RFO, so we are aware of the conversation and hopefully we'll have some more information for the next committee meeting. But obviously if there is any things that crop up during the year, the Tollbridge Fund, there might be a need for a report to come through for a drawdown to meet any expenditure.
Yes, yeah, okay, thank you very much. And the final action from the last meeting again was against 11.24.8, and that was the Finance Officer to discuss with the property manager the opportunity to undertake an energy efficiency review of the Guildhall and to report back with any associated costs to the next meeting of the committee.
Yes, so the property manager is actually working on that at the moment.
Yeah.
It is envisaged that report should come to the committee next month.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to agenda item 5, it's the payment schedules and finances. I propose that we separate these out and first take the 3 payment schedules for approval. These are attachments 2A, 2B and 2C in the pack. Can I first of all open up to see if there are any comments at all on any of those 3 items? No?
Happy to propose we accept those.
All 3 of them?
All
Yes.
3 of them.
Second from Councillor Pennington. And that, Councillor Carter, have you voted?
Oh, sorry.
That's unanimous. Thank you.
So that's A, B and C.
That's A, B and C. Yeah. So the next report we're asked to receive and approve is the Sandwich Tollbridge Fund cash book as of the 30th of November 2024. This is attachment 2D. Any comments from anybody on this? If not, if somebody's happy to propose that.
Happy to propose that.
And Councillor Pennington seconding, and a vote. Thank you very much, that's unanimous as well. The next set are the 3 bank reconciliation reports. These are attachments 2E to 2G. Again, can I open up for any comments that anybody might have on these?
Once again, they're reconciliations, so unless anybody's spotted any mistakes, it should be quite straightforward.
I have a question to ask actually. Under the cash book where, just one second. To do with museum, volunteer expense parking permit, 8050 1. I didn't know parking permit is issued to volunteers. Permit, it's a volunteer for museums. I mean, do they normally have expense?
Yes, so these are shared, so it's 2 permits that are shared across all 31 volunteers. So what happens is the volunteer will come to the Guildhall, will sign and take the permit, go and put it on their vehicle, and then when their shift ends they'll come back to the Guildhall to return it. So it's shared across all the volunteers, and I think that it's a practice that has been going on for quite some time.
I can confirm that it has been going on for a long time, but obviously not on Sundays.
Yeah, because I remember at one stage, Councillor Black, you were asking if they have a permit when you come for meeting to park at the back, didn't you? In the car park. That's probably a year ago you asked for.
That's right.
I asked what the situation was, but no, for museum volunteers
you always
visiting,
ask, okay.
they've been doing this for a long time, otherwise they'd have a problem with volunteers.
Fine, that's fine, that's my question.
Okay. And can I just check with Town Clerk, did we vote on those, and that was a comment afterwards, we haven't voted on
We were
those?
just about to
So
do
just
that.
happy to propose those?
I proposed it, Martin,
Yep.
Councillor Pennington seconded it, so.
And if you could vote? That's unanimous as well. And the final set are the 3 budget variance reports, attachments 2H to 2J, and we're asked to receive and approve these. Are there any comments on these 3 reports? No? No comments? We have to propose. Councillor Day, Councillor Carter, Councillor Pennington, and unanimous. Thank you very much. And the final attachment, 2K, is the Quilter Cheviot report for November 2024, which we are asked to receive. I'll open up for comments on the report, but first I want to point out that the income figure for this month, which others may have noticed, is significantly below the usual performance. So it's £843.53 is the income. Maybe the town clerk or the finance officer could advise on why there is a difference from usual performance.
Yeah, I contacted Quilter Cheviot about this, and they said it was something to do with the timing difference on the dividend payments.
Yeah.
So I queried further, and she said that one of the infrastructure funds, the International Public Partnerships, have changed their payment date from November to December, and this accounts for the differential. She went on to say that there'll be further payments at the end of December and January, and all I can imagine is that if it's going to be delayed, that the next payment will rise, and we'll just have to wait and see what they are.
So what I would suggest, so as we don't lose this in the lapse of time, which is very possible, is that we record an action that we will do a comparison between November's and December's when that comes through, and also against the usual expectation around the income.
That's true.
Okay.
I'd agree with that. I'd agree that. And obviously, just the caveat I'd like to add is that obviously we've already said previously that there is going to be a review of the Quilter Cheviot, and as was once again foretold by our soothsayer, Councillor Ungerson, if I may use that phrase, you know, these results are below par, massively below par. So and Councillor Ungerson, and I believe Councillor Franklin
And Councillor Breen as well.
and Councillor Breen
Yes.
have all said that the performance is less than lacklustre.
Yeah. So what we agreed at the full meeting of the trustee was that we would bed in the new charity-based scheme, and then within a 6-month period we would then look again in terms of whether we needed to consider whether it actually is delivering value for money and look elsewhere if that's the option we want to go with.
That's right.
Okay.
I
Any
think
other comments?
well, I would say if we are going to look elsewhere, which I think we probably, well, I hope we will, that we should be careful as to who we find to advise us,
Yes.
because you know, we want somebody who's independent,
We do. Good.
and
we do.
they're quite thin on the ground, I think, these days.
Yeah.
Totally independent.
Okay.
Good
Note.
That's a good point actually,
Yeah.
because we're with Quilter Cheviot because of a previous mayor, I won't mention any names, he recommended them, and then they came to us many years ago, gave a presentation, and as I say, the recommendation was from a previous mayor, and it was only afterwards we found out that he was one of their customers as well.
I don't see anything wrong with called Tuesday. I work
Count-
with for many.
Councillor Wiles.
Yeah, my view
They've
on
been investigated.
this portfolio is the old adage about you put all your eggs in one, you shouldn't put all your eggs in one basket. So I think
Yeah.
at the moment all our eggs are in the medium risk basket.
Yeah.
And perhaps we need a more subtle approach which says, you know, 5% in high risk, 30% or medium risk, whatever.
Yeah,
50% in
and that's
No.
why we need to investigate
Yeah.
the options around independent advice.
Yeah.
And
Because if we'd invested, let's say in, you know, Apple or Tesla or any of these shares 10, 20 years ago, £1,000, you probably now have £1 million payments, you know?
Exactly, yeah, good point, good
Yeah.
point, yeah.
But then again, DeLorean might not have delivered that.
So, you know, that's the whole point of high risk. You win some, you lose some. But if
Yeah.
you win big time.
Okay, are we happy to receive a report unless there's any other comments? So we happy to propose receiving it? Okay.
Propose
Councillor
that
Carter, Councillor
reluctantly.
Pennington. Okay. Agenda item 6, we have a second draft budget for the Sandwich Tollbridge Fund and Sandwich Tollbridge Fund Guildhall account for 25-26 to consider. This updated draft budget has been prepared by the Finance Officer following feedback from members at the last meeting. I want to just check, so there was a couple of things that I asked about and I did get answers to these. So there are the increased fees that were agreed at Monday's full meeting of the trustee are now going to be reflected within this budget, aren't they? So that's still to be done. And the indoor market, because we made a decision around not completely
Inclusive.
Yeah,
Option 2.
absolutely. Yes, so we went for option 2, and that needs to be reflected as well. Is that right?
What I would say is that the fees have not been changed according to the new fee schedule. But the indoor market has, I have made a change decrease 11,000 to 6,000.
Yeah.
Although in discussion with the property manager, he has got other plans. So it might be that, you know, we do get more than 6,000. May not be for that particular room, but it might be, you know, that we do increase charges. I think that, you know, obviously we need a budget, but it's not absolutely, we don't need to be absolutely tied down to the income budget. If we get more, that's great, and we can work with that at the time.
Because that could in effect mean that any potential drawdown that we've identified will be less access needed to it.
What I would say is that the version that I've created where the 11,000 is now 6, that has had an impact on the contribution from the Tollbridge Fund account, because that's had to rise,
Yes.
and then on the Tollbridge Fund account, that's had an impact on the contribution paid to the Guildhall and the investment drawdown. So there's four
Yeah.
different
Streams get.
changes, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's whether we, leave it at 6 or leave it at 11, or in the end it doesn't really matter, as long as we
Yes.
are in the right ballpark.
Okay.
And I'd just like to say, obviously, it's good that the property manager is progressing things and putting forward new schemes, but let's perhaps work on the data that we do know and the figures that we are pretty sure about, instead of speculation, if possible. Sorry to put it that way.
No, that's fine. I know we talked about, yes, sorry, Councillor Ungerson.
Yes, well, I was just wondering about £10,000 for STBF property asset management, but are we not doing that in-house?
Oh, that's not one fee paid, that is ad hoc asset reviews, or any individual charges for any of our assets that we get throughout the year.
Surveys,
So
that kind of
it's
thing.
not paying outside contract to the whole
Okay.
10,000.
And similarly, the cinema feasibility study, could you explain about that?
That was a request from Councillor Wiles, and that's still in the budget for discussion.
That was, the property managers commissioned 2 reports on the cinema, a damp report and a property survey. So it's really taking forward those 2 items
Right.
and looking at possibilities for renovation, refurbishment, etc. So
Yes.
it would mean employing an architect, presumably, and coming up with some option schemes.
And is the same thing being done for the Fishergate? Because I don't know what's
The
the
property
STC.
managers dealing with that.
Yeah, it's STC specific.
Oh,
Yes.
right, that's not owned by the STBF.
However, it's a good segue to, we have got another property that, actually we've also got the toilets at the rear of Guildhall, which are under STBF, but we've definitely got St Peter's Day is in a similar situation regards investment requirements.
But that's the
That's STBF.
right.
Yes, we have got 2 properties that we know need to have money spent on them in the coming year or years. So I suppose, but talking about the request that Colin put in, I suppose I have some slight concern in the sense that it's almost like we're jumping ahead of, we've got 2 buildings that actually need to have investment in terms of getting them to where they should be, rather than looking at the future for them. But then again, we do need to look at the future for them, so I'm just sort of, I've got a conflict of thoughts on this.
And the 2 buildings are the cinema and the gym.
Yes, exactly.
That's right.
Yeah, Councillor Carlton.
Oh yeah, so I was just going to say with that, that it's, I think in a way, I think Councillor Wiles is correct, because the problem is there's been a long period of lack of maintenance, or what have you, like that, and as we are the landlords, so we need to, and at this stage in the game, that both those properties really do need, it doesn't need an unqualified person going around saying, oh, smells a bit damp in here, perhaps we ought to do something about it. It actually needs now, both these buildings got to a state where both of them have got ingress of water, and it could be structural damage for all we know. So I think Councillor Wiles is correct in what he's saying, and relying on his professional property experience and skills, I'm supporting him.
I think with the cinema, we have a short-term and a long-term issue. So we've had a report which says these damp problems exist, and the cost of remedying them is about 30 to 40,000. So the strategic question for us is whether we do that, or whether we do the whole caboodle. So the idea of getting an architect to come up with options and costs is we can then we can then inform that decision about whether we do
So
short-term.
I'd like to suggest, Councillor Wiles, that because we agreed on Monday that the survey report has already been produced, would go to the next full meeting of the STBF, is could you link up with the property manager, because what you're describing there are two sides to the coin. There's a short-term need, which you've already sort of given a trailer in terms of one of the costs associated with it, but there are other costs in terms of what's been highlighted in that report, and we'll all get to see that in the full meeting. But I think your desire about the future should be integrated in terms of whatever's taken to STBF, so we can look at it in the round.
But the wider issue is the lease and what happens with the lease in the future in both properties.
Yeah.
So you can't look at the property and the lease separately. They're two sides of the same coin.
Any other comments on the budget? The budgets, sorry. If not, there are two recommendations to consider. So the first is that members consider if there are any changes required to 25-26. Draft budgets on the recommendation says 24-25, so if we can update that to 25-26, I think that's what we're talking about, is that right? Yes, good. It wasn't just me then. So that's the first one. Is somebody happy to propose that?
I'm happy to propose that we take it, accept it
As it is. And Councillor Wiles seconds and votes. That's unanimous. Second recommendation is that an extraordinary STBF meeting is held in January to approve the 25-26 budgets. Happy to Councillor Bax proposing, Councillor Wiles is seconding, and is unanimous. Thank you.
Can we just ask a question about that?
Please do.
You're approving the new version where the indoor market is £6,000.
We haven't seen that, have we?
No,
Not on this one.
it's not that one on the agenda.
Yes. So
It's been
again,
produced,
let's just backtrack. I'm happy to accept that it is reduced from 11 to 6, because I raised that as a query. If everybody's happy with that's what we acknowledge, yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Item 7, we have a report from the property manager on energy cost savings and efficiency of the Guildhall. If the town clerk could highlight the key points, and then we can open up for discussion.
Okay, thank you. So this is a brief interim report, and there will be a more detailed document that will focus on a number of key measures that collectively will make noteworthy savings over the coming years once the capital expenses were repaid. So talks about the current heating system. Obviously, those of you that have been here a while know that it's fairly new, and it obviously pumps the hot water that feeds the radiators in two distinct areas. Obviously, we know we've got the older part of the building and the newer part, and basically the cost of gas we all know is volatile, and being reliant on just the gas is not a healthy position to be in. We do need also to control it manually within each side of the building with override buttons. And the exposed pipework through the offices in the modern section of the building does make it uncomfortably hot in this time of year. So property manager has been talking to the contractor about this, and we're going to put in standard operating procedures, SOPs, in place to ensure that the caretakers and the cleaners turn off the radiator thermostats at the end of each day, and we must collectively take responsibility and not leave radiators on when they're not in use. Insulating the exposed pipework that will prevent heat loss, and obtain prices for electricity heating in the modern section of the building. And this would be fed off storage batteries that have gained through the energy through solar panels. If we do go electric, then the solar panels would be installed in the rear section of the roof facing the car park. The property manager said he doesn't believe this is a heritage issue, which is due to the proposed panels not being visible from St Peter's Church Tower. And this test was carried out by the heritage officer. Assuming that point 3 does take place, we would have wall-mounted electric heaters in the main hall and the gallery, And crucially, these units will also supply air conditioning in the summer months. That is very crucial. The old section of the building would remain on gas heating. The property manager's meeting with the electrical contractor at the end of next week to discuss solar panelling, types of systems, cost and potential savings. There is a lack of insulation in the loft. He's been surprised and looked in the accessible areas, and this is a major factor that does need to be addressed on both sides of the building. I won't go through all the actions, you've obviously read this, but actually the loft insulation, he's put those clearly out for you 1 to 3, and he would like to use the ops team that we have here to fit insulation. Obviously would have a saving on using contractors. We all know there's various types of windows in the old and modern part of the building, and there is drafts. It's very apparent there are drafts in parts of the building. We know that double glazing might be an option, but secondary glazing is a possibility, and hopefully that will be something we can progress for us as well. And again, there's 3 action points there, but he's pointed out that secondary glazing is not cheap, but we have to invest to realise some savings. With the lighting, he does have a meeting with the electrical contractor to discuss the current lighting system and talking about replacement lamps that can be retrofitted into the existing fittings. But he thinks that the lighting is not actually expressing the same other parts measures that he wants to introduce that will form part of his strategy. He's then talked about cost of electric and gas and given you some figures there about the present costs after consultation with the RFO. And then he's just asked if you could read this report and wait more information before I shortly.
So I'll open up comments in a second, but I'm just going to say, can I thank property manager for this? I thought it was an excellent piece of work, and it really demonstrates the value of having him as a member of our team, and if you can pass that on to him, definitely. And also, in terms of report, it's good to see that some small changes are included, which can sometimes give big returns, and that's great, because it's not just about looking for the most exciting or expensive solutions. However, he has included solar panels, which in itself can be contentious, but I did do some searching myself around the internet when I saw that within the report, and English Heritage are very much in favour of listed buildings, etc., looking at the option of it. I'm not saying that they're promoting it, but they certainly have removed their reservations since November 2023, and do say it's something that should be looked at in terms of a cheaper form of energy. So they were just my observations to start with, but Councillor.
I think there's some very good things in here, and as I say, some of them are not massive cost, some are obviously longer term. The one thing that surprised me a little was the comment about still having to have caretakers going around knocking off radiators and so on. I don't know anything about the control systems, but it does seem a bit odd today that we haven't got a control system that will do a better job at doing that from a central position. But it may be that the equipment is the way it's set up, but it's not the most reliable way because people forget.
Councillor Wiles.
Yeah, 2 points. One is the income from hire fees this year is about 50,000, another 10 or so if you include the indoor market. So let's say 60,000. The electricity and gas bill is 30,000.
36.
Well, yeah, 36,000. Yeah, he thinks 30,000. So if you take out the staffing premises and these premises, the Guildhall is not really paying its way. I mean, it's a loss-making enterprise with those costs. So that's one point. And if perhaps we need a discussion about the use of this building long term, because we and the staff could all be in modern premises with a heating bill of perhaps 1,000, 2,000 a year. It's just a thought. But let's say the annual heating and gas and electric bill was reduced to 15,000, as a result of some of these changes. Question for Karen really, if we had 15,000 a year extra to play with, could that finance, let's say over 30 years, you know, £500,000 of capital investment? Because we talked the other day about the boiler, and really we should have a sinking fund that's accumulating over time for big items of expenditure.
However, I suppose we do have a sinking fund. We have the STBF itself is a sinking fund, you know, because that's where we have money that we can draw down from. So drawing down to draw down.
It's a pot of
yes.
gold.
But sorry, I was answering on behalf of funds.
So I suppose the question is,
the best way to handle a sinking fund is to invest it while you're not using it.
yeah, sure, of course.
Invest it
But
wisely.
let's say you had savings of 15,000 a year, year on year, that presumably could fund the capital sum.
I would have to look into
Yeah,
that.
Councillor
Yeah, I
Carter.
just wanted to say a couple of things. One thing is, I think we should really look at what we've achieved. So getting the property manager in, which we said we'd do, and we had a couple of false starts on that, has been a great achievement. And we did say about the property asset manager, as it was going to be, was that a part of his role would be that he would have to earn his keep by introducing measures to make sure, one, that the hire of the Guildhall increases, which he certainly has been doing that, and the secondary thing was to do with items such as this, which was to improve the efficiency of it, which I think is quite good. I would just like to ask though that we don't miss any tricks, because earlier I said about events organisers looking further afield to fund things, and Sandwich Tollbridge Fund should be doing the same. So if there are any grants out there for insulation or lighting or changes or anything like that, then could we please, you know, look further afield and not always think, oh, well, we've got to fund this ourselves, so it comes out the Tollbridge Fund. From my point of view, I think the Tollbridge Fund should be for the benefit of the residents of the town, and unless the residents of the town are actually coming to use the Guildhall, they're probably sitting in their houses in St Bart's Road going, there's all that money there, and it's literally going on this building that I perhaps go in once a year, you know, like that, to the annual town meeting.
Yeah,
So
insulation definitely jumps out to me as surely there's avenues to
it's
explore
got
for
to be
funding.
something somewhere,
Yeah.
to.
Councillor Ungerson.
I've forgotten.
Councillor Pennington.
Yes, thank you. Just quickly, first of all, I was surprised there isn't any loft insulation, and that's a low-hanging fruit, and I should have thought we could get on with that fairly quickly. I'm not quite sure how far the other proposals might need planning permission, with this being an old building. I had mixed views about using solar panels, and I wondered if air source heat pumps might be a better alternative, but I bow to the view of one of the experts.
And of course we don't own this building, it is DTC's property, so there's an issue there to start with.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. Councillor Wiles, was there anything else?
Air source heat pumps, they're controversial. They can be very noisy as well in
Yes.
such a tight residential area.
I have remembered what it was.
Okay.
It's about the upfront capital cost of some of these proposals. Insulation, it seems to be cheap and relatively easy, but secondary double glazing for a building like this would be tens of thousands, and obviously we would have to consider how that is mitigated by future savings.
Secondary glazing.
Secondary glazing. I recently looked at secondary glazing for our house, and it is very, very
I mean, it would not be practical in these rooms.
No.
well, why not?
You could.
It would be very, very expensive.
All valid points. Councillor Carter?
Just the last one is the offices where I work in London. One of the energy efficiency things was we had electric doors that opened and closed, and they opened and closed. Every time they open and close, of course, hot air goes from a hotter area to a colder area, and they were losing a lot of heat. We've just had I think it's 1.something million refurbishment of the offices and the reception area, and they've actually put in, whether that probably wouldn't be possible here, but a revolving door, and apparently the heat retention is supposed to be like up to 75% better with a revolving door than doors that just open. And our doors downstairs, that is the factor there. So every time somebody presses the pad and those doors open, it's letting up.
Yeah.
If we had a lobby inner area with a second set of doors, it would retain the heat.
Yes.
And that's been missed.
Actually, that reminds me of another issue which has come up at Museum and Archives, but I don't think it happened, and that is that the museum door, that we need a glass door because
Correct.
I mean, the museum guides,
Correct.
the volunteers, sit in the freezing cold if the door is open, and the visitors don't come in if the door is closed, and, and the guides are warm. So
Good point.
we really do need a glass
We do,
door.
Museum Archives Committee. Councillor Wiles, do you want to last comment?
Well, two last points. The waiting room has shown how you can tastefully
it's a
provide
brilliant solution.
glass doors.
Yeah.
I think the doors down here, I did the art exhibition here separately the other week, and those doors are fairly forbidding, you know, the big doors.
Yeah.
When they were opened, you get many more people coming in, but
Yeah.
obviously you're losing heat.
Yes.
So that's just the point. But I think, you know, I think we should congratulate property manager for this report. It's you know, raising the issues.
Yes.
And I look forward to more detailed
And
proposals.
on that
and
note, we're
details.
asked to receive and note the report, so if somebody's happy
I'd
to
like to propose noting this interim report.
Yeah.
with a further update to follow.
Yes.
Seconded by Councillor Black. And
I mean, if the further update could also have some estimates of the capital costs
Yes.
involved
point.
in some
Good
of
point.
these recommendations.
Good, yeah,
That
good
would
point.
be
Yeah.
helpful.
Okay, moving on to agenda item 8. So this was put in as a placeholder just in case anything came out of the discussions from the full meeting of the trustee on Monday. And this was in relation to Quarter Cheviot investments. We have touched on it in this meeting. We also did obviously touch on it a lot in the full meeting. If we're comfortable that we've got a way forward on this, then I don't propose that we spend too much time going over well-trodden ground.
No, agree.
Okay, that's fine. So final item, agenda item 9, date of time of next meeting next year, Wednesday the 22nd of January. Thank you very much.